Well, let's turn our focus to another story. Former Governor of Delta State, Chief James Ibori, returned to his country home in Ogara in Delta State last week after serving a 6-year jail term in the United Kingdom.
Many may have anticipated a low-key welcome befitting of an ex-convict who was punished for stealing monies belonging to the masses. On the contrary, the former governor was treated to a rousing welcome.
And let's play back the report to lay a foundation for this discussion.
Former Delta State strongman James Ibori there waving to the crowd of supporters that thronged his country home in Ogara to welcome him. It was a triumphant entry for the robo-born politician who established himself as a kingmaker and cheerful giver in Delta State before he went on exile and ended up imprisoned in the United Kingdom. The supporters that came out to welcome the former governor cut across ethnic divides in the state, and their presence could be felt everywhere in his compound and in the entire community. Some of them that spoke with us described his freedom as a special gift for the people of Ogara community in particular and Delta State as a whole because of how he is perceived.
The God that gave Jesus also gave James Onanefe Ibori. And over the period, God decided to send him to his school. He's been in the college, God's college. And his freedom, he has freed. He has graduated. So he's here. So I'm overwhelmed.
The good product sells itself. Look at the overwhelming crowd. Look at the overwhelming crowd. Chief James Onanefe Ibori is a wonderful man, a great man that has touched so many lives. This is practically, to me, what matters.
Today I'm so happy because our governor is back. And we love him so much. We love him so much. We are so happy that he's back home.
Many of them said they will throw big parties in celebration of his return. But it is not clear yet whether the former governor will join the joyous supporters to celebrate his triumphant return to the state he once ruled and reigned like a colossus. This is because he is not prepared yet from the way he conducted himself so far to draw too much attention to himself. Carl Ofonye, TVC News, Ogara, Delta State.
That was a mammoth crowd. That was a big crowd. But it's all right. We're joined now.
The song was James Ibori, don't come.
Yeah, that's what they were singing. We have joining us now a lawyer, an activist, Ahmed Abbas. Good morning. It's good to have you join us right now.
Good morning.
Good morning. Lawyer, an activist, Ahmed Abbas. Good morning. It's good to have you join us right now.
Good morning.
Good morning. And we also joining us is the chairman of the Coalition Against Corrupt Leaders, Debo Adeniran. He's executive chairman of Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership, CACO. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Yes.
Right, Ahmed, let me start with you. First of all, what do you make of that triumphant, let me use the word, triumphant entry into Ogara by James Ibori?
I think what we are witnessing is nothing but a moral crisis. It's a moral crisis. We have a challenge on our hands that a man that ordinarily should be humble and probably still be cooling somewhere, asking for forgiveness could be received in this manner. To me, there's a moral crisis. It's a problem. Considering the crowd and the Queen's English-speaking members of the public
that are telling us that they are happy that an ex-convict is free. I think it's a moral crisis.
You're a lawyer, Abbas.
Yes.
You expect that when you go to a prison, some correctional values are imputed into you in prison.
Yes.
So if you've done the crime, you've done the time. What's the problem with that?
You shouldn't flaunt the fact that you have gone to prison. In our eyes, you shouldn't flaunt it.
It's not a good perception.
It's not a good perception. Hailing an ex-convict, is he a role model? That's exactly what you are portraying him to be, a role model. I mean, these are educated people speaking sound Queen's English, telling us they are happy. He has gone to college to do what? A man stole billions of naira. For me, he shouldn't be a role model. He shouldn't.
All right, let me bring Debo in here. Well, you've been following this. What do you think makes James Ibori that someone said a good product? Someone
Sells
used the word
itself.
a good product sells itself. What makes him that good in the eyes and the hands and in the minds and hearts of Deltans?
First and foremost, you should know that James Ibori was the Robin Hood of Ogara Kingdom. You know, he robbed from Delta State to fix Ogara people. That is his own village. And the amount of money he had amassed, you know, was enough to give every citizen of that village ₦1 million each. And if he did that, of course he did almost that. If it's not up to $1 million, at least he has given so much to each family in that place. And he ensured that he provided, you know, basic infrastructure in that town. We were there when he ran there, and we knew what's happened. Now, that is the extent of moral debasement that can be demonstrated by any people that are supposed to be discerning, you know, knowing what implications, you know, stealing from public till, you know, has on the generality of the people. Now, Ibori has always been that kind of person who wants to buy everybody around him to sing his praises. We were almost a victim of that. He came to NIA in Lagos here to give a lecture on how to curb corruption, you know, for a hallmark newspaper in Nigeria.
Okay.
That is your sister. Well, is it sister you call it? Because you are in the media together. Now, if a media organization brought somebody like that to come and lecture us on how not to be corrupt, then we thought that it wasn't right. Because Ibori's
Was
case,
he convicted then, or there were allegations? Because they are two different things.
he was on trial.
So but he wasn't convicted.
He wasn't convicted. Yes, I agree with you. But then, if you are under that clear light and you have actually accentuated the allegations by the humongous amount of money that you have confirmed
if you're of that opinion, then you will tell the Senate President not to attend any such lectures because the allegations are still there. He's not been convicted.
You see,
so the Senate President shouldn't even give lectures on corruption.
When you look at moral implication of all of this, it's like Nigeria is demonstrating his compliance. Compliance to is it compliance now? That is, you accept that corruption is a way of life. We have so many people who were not accused of any corruption crimes that could have given the same, what do you call it? The same lecture. The Senate President you are talking about, if the country is a country that sees, you know, integrity as something that's worth its name, we wouldn't have allowed him to sit as the chairman of our National Assembly, not to talk of presiding and representing us, making laws for us. What kind of law will a suspected corruption criminal make to curb corruption in a country that we are? Will he make a law that will strengthen the anti-corruption institutions? Will he make a law that will strengthen the law enforcement agencies? Will it make a law that will expose corruption and ensure that no corruption criminal goes scot-free? It's not going to do that. And the kind of acceptance we are giving to, I mean, the way we are tolerating these people is the reason why we are ranking high on the corruption perception index of the Transparency International all the time. It is this kind of welcome, carnival that was accorded Ibori that will tell the whole world that, okay, the bigger you committed a corruption crime in Nigeria, the more they accept you back into the community. That is against what CACOL, that is the Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership, is preaching.
All right,
that
let me bring...
people should know that they are the worst victim of corruption, because there's no amount of money a corrupt person will give you that will buy you your life.
Let me bring in Ahmed in here. Now, when a governor or a public official, whether he ties the streets in gold, builds you a gold house, buys you a gold car, is it about him or it's about the responsibility that the government is supposed to actually do for the people? Because in this, it's not about what the governor, former governor, when he was governor, James Ibori, it's not about what he did as the governor anymore. It's about he as a person, what he has done for his people. I'll come to that for you to answer that, if our values are misplaced in here. Let's go on a break, and then we come back to dwell on this. We're discussing on this segment the return or the heroic welcome of former governor of Delta State, James Ibori, from the prison in London. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast. All right, thanks for staying with us on TVC Breakfast. In just about a minute or so, we'll be going for the news update, as Isaac is already standing by. But we have Ahmed Abbas with us in the studio. We also have Ibori Adeniro with us in here. Now, Ahmed, I was asking earlier on, how misplaced are our values when we sing praise of a public officer who is supposed to originally, by law, provide infrastructure, provide amenities, and we sing praise to him instead?
Sometimes I find it very comical that it's only in this part of the world you see governors build road and they use ribbon and scissors, declare a holiday, bring in CNN and say they are declaring the road open. You build schools, you insist people should clap for you. You build hospitals, you insist we must give you a standing ovation. The question I normally ask is this: if as a father you've put food on the table for your children, and you ask them to clap for you, what are you supposed to do as a father? These are fundamental, they are primary responsibilities of government. In advanced climb, I've never seen Barack Obama declare a school in his 8 years. The Prime Minister of UK and most advanced countries, I've never seen where they throw parties to declare, a school open, a road open. I think it's an upside down value. Let me say this. The last election, so I was on set on a particular TV, and somebody said, we should thank our president. I'm sorry to say, I disagreed. I said no. If I give you a responsibility, because he actually applied for the job for a 4-year term, I give you all the resources, and you run down the company. I'm supposed to reward you with a 4-year additional term. I got angry. As a shareholder of the company or a board of directors, I give you a sack letter, and you are insisting I should stand on the table and give you a standing ovation for accepting the sack letter. You should be apologizing for me for wasting my time for the 4 years.
Okay. Right, if you're joining us, you're watching TVC Breakfast. We're still discussing the return of former governor of Delta State, oil-rich Delta State, James Ibori, back into the country. He received a heroic welcome in his home country, or in his hometown in Ogara in Delta State, and we've been looking at this. We have in the studio a lawyer, Ahmed Abbas. He has been talking about this. We also have Ibori Adeniro. He is the executive chairman of Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership. We've been talking about this. Now, Ahmed, you were making a point before we went on break.
So, like I was saying, when we elect our leaders, there are primary responsibilities that we expect them to undertake. And when they undertake such assignments, they are not doing us a favor because they are being paid. That's why they are elected. They are not doing us a favor. And we shouldn't, I'm not saying we shouldn't praise them when they do well, but worshiping them as if we owe them that obligation ought not to be. Let me take the other side of what transpired concerning Ibori's welcome. You see, the culture of poverty that is prevailing deliberately and strategically is the reason why you can have such mammoth crowd. You see, when you do not empower people and people are poor, money becomes a tool for manipulation. Let me give you a typical example. In the last election, I registered during the office hours. And on the election day, there's no movement. But because I'm passionate about the project called Nigeria, I had to sleep in a hotel near where I registered to be able to vote. In the two elections, governorship and presidential, I ended up spending 40,000 naira to cast my vote. 40,000 naira. Because I'm passionate about the project Nigeria. Because I know my vote counts. I paid the price. And I decided to vote for the president of my choice. Not because anybody paid me. I could afford it. I have a mind of my own.
Yes.
So nobody, how much are you going to give to me to pay? But you see a situation where 1,000 naira by these political rascals and crooks and criminals because they know the people are poor. It's a culture, a deliberate one. Yeah. You keep giving them 1,000 naira. And because, look, when a man is poor, he loses the capacity to think rationally. That's the honest truth. And that's the politics that our leaders have been playing in the time past. And I'm ashamed, really ashamed of the mammoth crowd that came out to welcome this crook that ordinarily should be apologizing and asking for God to forgive him his sins. They shouldn't be flaunting criminals before us. We want good role models. Nigeria must change. We do not want an Ibori as a role model. They are free, but I said there's a moral crisis, but they should also know that as they are welcoming him, there are some of us that have also made up our mind that in this nation, let them steal at age 80, we will bring them to account. Because criminal offenses do not have expiry dates. Some of them at age 90, at age 95, will use walking stick and be accounting for what they did when they were in corridors of power.
So what do you make of those who EFCC caught in Nigeria and they refunded some money and they went back home quietly? Well, what about that?
No, for me as a person, all I'm interested in, let me tell you, can I bear my mind to you? We grew up to know that the greatest problem facing this nation is corruption. Let me tell you, the honest truth is corruption. Take our stunted growth is predicated on corruption. Turn to any direction in this nation, you meet the mountain of corruption. When people were advocating for a Buhari regime, let me tell you the honest truth. Somebody asked me, why are you voting for this man? I said, well, he may not be a Harvard-trained economist. But I know that when a patient is bleeding profusely, internally and externally, and is also complaining of headache, what do you take out first? What do you treat first? Are you going to be giving him Panadol? You have to stop the bleeding. This nation is bleeding from corruption. And we are stunted. No road. Ibadan Expressway, why is it like that? Because the resources that ought to have gone into the construction of Ibadan Road over the years were embezzled. I sympathize and I empathize with Buhari. You know the reason why? Nigeria is like a patient that has gone through the hands of several medical doctors who forgot one medical equipment in their body all over the years. And now the man is now crying because the instruments are rusting and he's shouting and the doctor is confused. So Buhari will have to realize that he's treating a patient that doctors have mistreated, cheated, exploited, with all manner of equipment forgotten in their stomach.
All right.
And so the pain that they are expressing now is not a pain directed at him. It's a carryover pain. So he should understand, even his managers should be able to empathize with the Nigerian people because we have been exploited and cheated, dehumanized over the years. All
right, Debo, just this protest yesterday, one of the convener, Odin Kalu, had a placard saying, fire the grass cutter. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know.
Fire the grass cutter, fire the SGF. And Senator Sani has not retracted his word that when it comes to corruption, the presidency handles some areas with insecticide, and when it comes to people close to the seat of power, it is handled with a deodorant. Or what do you make of that?
Well, that is how it appears to both of them. Odinkalo and Seusoni have the mind of their own. What we should look at is under what condition did Buhari took over the reign of governance, and with whom is he working? Look at what the Constitution says. You cannot come as a private, independent candidate to contest the election. You have to contest with people in political parties. And who are the people that populate political parties in Nigeria? They are the same old people who have had, one opportunity or the other to run government at one level or the other. Now, some of these people have also soiled their hands. We are just looking at a population of a blind country. You need one-eyed men to pilot their affairs until those who are sighted will come up stage. What Buhari, the quagmire within which Buhari found himself is that most of those who surround him, including the former governor of Lagos State, were people who have, mismanaged some resources that were at their custody one time or the other. Those who populate the National Assembly were those who have governed, who have participated in public service one time or the other. And some of them are under investigation, some of them are under trial. Like you mentioned the other time. This is the reason why the president finds it difficult to operate the way he ought to have operated.
Which of the former governors are you talking about?
Which of the former governors?
I talk about, that is Babatunde Raji Fashola.
Okay.
Remember, when the same Senate is clearing him, they ask him if indeed he upgraded his personal website with 78.3 million naira. The response was that he didn't sign checks. And the same Senate that is asking Ibrahim Magu to resign, not to be confirmed, applauded the Babatunde Raji Fashola. And this is a way by which one arm, that is 1/3 of Nigerian government, is glorifying corruption. When the wife of the Senate president went to visit the EFCC on invitation for criminal investigation, more than 1/3 of those who populated the Senate followed her there with the view to intimidating the EFCC to to abandon the investigation. They didn't succeed, and that is why they do not want an EFCC to be strengthened.
All
so
right,
what we are saying is that it is not the president, it is those who are working with the president, it is those who populate the governance at different levels. Look at what happened at the level of judiciary. Those are the people who are supposed to adjudicate in the matters that the EFCC and other anti-corruption agencies took to court. These are the people that have been exposed to have been bribe takers, to have been, money launderers, to have been people, trading in arms and ammunition and all that.
Okay.
So we cannot single out a Buhari or an Osinbajo. No Nigerian has accused Buhari of stealing.
All right, Debo, we'll come back to this.
Okay,
let's go on a break, and we come back to shed more light into dimensions this discussion is taking. Stay with us.
Glad to have you back. You're watching TVC Breakfast, and this morning we're taking a look at the return of former governor of Delta State, James Ibori, who has been to a college, and now he's back with us in Nigeria. And of course, the rousing welcome.
What college? What college?
A rousing welcome given to him by the Ogara people. The college was a coinage from an Ogara man. So we're using that. And we have our guest in the studio, a lawyer, Abbas Ahmed is with us in the studio, and Debo Adeniran, who is of the Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership. Okay, so back to Abbas. Let's go. EFCC had said they have every right to reopen corruption cases or charges against Ibori. That the case that was brought up against him in 2004, thereabout, from Delta State was moved to an appeal court in Benin, and that the Supreme Court never weighed in on that case, that's still there. Yeah. What's your take on that?
Very simple. It can be tried again. It can be tried again. They have additional facts and subsequent evidence. They can try him again. It's even an irony and a slap on our judiciary, because Ibori's case was actually very comical and dramatic. That for purpose of creating an escape route for Ibori, they established overnight a federal high court in Asaba. He was found not guilty of all the offenses here, ran away out of the countries, and another jurisdiction picked him up, tried him for similar offenses, and he was found guilty. It's an indictment on our judicial system.
But if you're served for the same offense, doesn't the issue of double jeopardy, doesn't it come up now?
Double jeopardy, absolutely.
No, I will explain that.
No.
Okay.
No.
First,
absolutely no.
Ibori was charged with 170 count charges.
Yeah.
It was dismissed, by the trial judge, Masaya Okulayi. He didn't allow Ibori to respond to any one of the charges, including the charge that he attempted bribing the former EFCC chairman Nuhu Ribadu with $15 million that the central bank agreed was with it. Up till now it was it. And the Delta states were actually struggling to have that $15 million back to their covers. Now, he claimed that he didn't steal, but his wife, his concubine, his lawyer, his consultant, have been jailed for money laundering for Ibori before he even got to the United Kingdom. If he didn't steal in Nigeria, what would they have laundered to the UK? So the case in Nigeria is that of stealing. The case in the UK was that of money laundering. Okay. So they are not the same thing. And apart from the 170 count charge that was leveled against him in the court of Masaya Okulayi, like he said, the court was created for him. The house that the court sat in was donated by co-conspirators to that stealing.
But the appeal court in Benin wasn't created for him.
No, not in the Benin. I'm talking
about
the
Asaba division of Federal High Court. They moved the case from the Asaba High Court to
let us finish these things. Okay, he was first charged in Kaduna. They say Kaduna was about 700 kilometers away from the scene of the crime. So they had to necessarily create a court, a division of Federal High Court that's supposed to be one all over Nigeria. The house that housed the trial judge was also donated by those that have been interrogated for the same crime. Amos Utuama was the secretary to the state government. Was Attorney General during Ibori era. Uduaga, that became the governor, was the secretary to the state government. All of them were interrogated by the EFCC. They were the same people who donated everything that brought the court and the trial judge, where the houses that the court sat and the trial judge. So basically, there had been conspiracy around that. They actually appointed Masaya Okulayi, being somebody they know can be manipulated. As a matter of fact, Kakor wrote 4 petitions, and that is why Masaya Okulayi was the trial judge, had to suspend the ruling 3 times because it was queried by the NJC based on our petition. He said he wanted to err on the side of caution. So basically, that he can still be tried for you because he was not discharged and acquitted. Then besides that, E.K. Clark has also leveled several allegations against him. Apart from that 170 count charge, they are pending. Okay, there are several other petitions that are pending. So what we were waiting for is his arrival. We don't care what the Ogara people did. What we are pushing from is for the EFCC not to waste further time. If they are pursuing the case in the appeal court in Benin City, they should charge him with the fresh, cases that they have established against him in the Asaba division of the Federal High Court, because that court can still go ahead with the cases.
All right, Ahmed, the cases were brought against Ibori in the past. Through the judicial system, they were bungled from what both of you said. Going forward now, if these cases are brought forward, what will be done differently? We still have the same judicial system in play in here.
I think the commitment of the government is very key in prosecuting criminal cases. So if most times it is the lack of political will to prosecute. That's one hand. On the other hand, the ability of the prosecution team to do its work very well. Because like I said, the court usually is not a Father Christmas. You must assemble your facts very well and present them clinically so that the hands of the court will also not be tied.
Between then and now,
we also
seem to have upped his game, really.
Yes, everybody is sitting quite, I believe the body language of the president has actually sent a message. That's the honest truth. You can, look, sometimes people may not like the president. I'm not saying he's a Harvard-trained economist or that he has solution to all our problems. But one thing you cannot take, of all the political or the politicians we have as of today, his credential in terms of probity and integrity, you can't take it away from him. You may not like him. I'm not saying he has his grasp on economic issues and all the rest of them. But the honest truth is that he's one president that had the opportunity to have amassed and become a multi-billionaire in this nation, but never abused his office. I'm not sitting here to say I know everything about the president. But from what we have known about the president, he's not one that, abused his office. He was a president, a former head of state, petroleum minister, he was a governor, chairman, PTF. If he wanted to be a billionaire today, he should be, in fact, he should be hobnobbing with the big boys and not even fighting on the side of the masses. So once the political will is there and every officer, the attorney general sees the body language of the president, I think they will do a very successful work concerning this man.
Even the judiciary that you are talking about is no longer the same judiciary.
Absolutely.
Okay. They can no longer, commit corruption crimes with, impunity with which they were doing it before.
Okay.
People who have
stolen these are still allegations.
Not also
these are still allegations.
See, what are you talking
the same
about?
Allegations.
All right, Ahmed Abbas, thank you very much for joining us.
You said it's allegations. Judges were returning big money.
All right, Debo Adediro, thank you for coming on the program this morning. Thank you. Ahmed Abbas, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll turn our attention to our next topic, but let's go on a break and then we come back. Stay with us.